Hi, welcome to the Fabulous Women Series podcast. I'm so happy to be back. There's a lot of changes. First of all, I'm Dr. Kim Allen. You know me from the Releading podcast, but there's a lot going on right now. This podcast is actually being brought to you by Salt Perspective, which is my new collaboration with the one and only Jeff Siegel. So Salt Perspective, look for that. So we are here right now. I'm very excited. We have a very special guest today, and her name is Dr. Elena Putilina. Did I say that correctly?
You did. Thank you, Kim.
All righty. See, well, you taught me well. So what I'm going to do is I really like to set the stage. I'm going to actually read her bio because it's pretty fabulous. And so is she. And also, I'm going to actually read her message up front. I have a lot of questions for her during the podcast, but I really want everyone to know upfront who she is and what her message is. And then we're going to be getting into some questions. So if you're ready, all right. So Elena is a healthcare technology executive and a change leader who brings strategy, data, AI, and digital transformation. She's led the delivery and the scaling of analytics platforms, launched groundbreaking data products, and embedded digital solutions across Fortune 500 pharma and high growth startups with a PhD in chemistry. All right, I'm going to pause right there, and I'll tell you why I'm really impressed with that, because I can barely speak English. I speak business. I speak no science. So the fact that she has a PhD in chemistry, I bow to you. Okay. And deep expertise in healthcare, data, product marketing, and organizational transformation. Elena brings a unique perspective on women's leadership in STEM, inspiring others to embrace the innovation in tech and AI. What I want to point out, because her resume is hands down one of the most robust I've ever seen, and I've been around for a while. But again, the way that Elena integrates tech, business, and organizational transformation truly is breathtaking. So I'm going to talk about Elena's message right now. And it goes like this, because my passion is women. I love working with women. I love supporting with women. And I really love women in leadership. So for Elena, as a woman in STEM, she said to me when we talked about going on the podcast, I wrote these down. As a woman in STEM, she said, yes, we do our job. Yes, we are role models. Yes, we create the tide for women that carries them and that will carry all of us as we will rise with them. And I just thought that was so prolific. And also she mentioned something else too, with regard to bringing your daughter to women's conferences. I think that's really important. So finally, with regard to Elena, her take is this. The take on hard data is that she helps organizations live it and enterprise it and benefit from it in a way that takes the benefit to the clients. So that being said, I really want to turn it over to Elena. If you want to give any questions for me up front, because I have a lot of questions for you, my friend.
All right. Well, bring it on, Kim. Thank you so much for inviting me. I am feeling very fabulous being a part of this fabulous podcast. I have a lot of passion for women in STEM. So let's just take it away.
Let's do it. All right. So I've got 10 questions, really good questions. All right. Number one, Elena.
Okay.
You've worked across Fortune 500 companies, healthcare startups, and tech consulting. What drew you into healthcare technology? And what keeps you passionate about this space?
Well, first of all, good question. And second of all, it's going to be a very simple answer, Kim. And you know what it is all of us, with no exception, are healthcare consumers, or will be, or were, and we behave like we're not. Period. And I think that's very wrong. We all need to think about the state of healthcare because it affects all of us. And if we kind of take that seriousness of this thought and think about it, okay, well, what can help our healthcare And I think technology is one of the things that can help, one of the trends, one of the enablers. And that is really what keeps me interested, because we all need help. Healthcare needs help. And technology is, I believe, one of our better tickets.
Okay. So I'm very curious about I'm curious about anyone that can speak chemistry. No, I'm curious about anyone that can speak science, because I guess I just didn't have good science teachers in high school. Otherwise, I probably have a doctorate in chemistry. But how did your doctorate, your PhD in chemistry, how did that shape the way you approach innovation, leadership, and problem solving?
So I love this question. And I want to talk a little bit about my PhD advisor, who was a big figure in kind of shaping me, not only as a scientist for a moment when I was working on my PhD, but also then subsequently as a leader. It was Professor Malcolm Chisholm. He is no longer with us, but I still love his approach and his contribution to science and contribution to me as a leader. And one of the things he did when I was a grad student, he actually made us write our papers with him. So he would write and we would sit next to him, and we would write and he would watch us. And as a grad student, with ADHD, self-diagnosed too, I was like, oh my God, why do I have to do it? And then I learned that this was a way to teach us to think together.
Wow.
And that was a very profound thing I learned from him, is to think together. So when I became a leader, that's how I lead. I think together with people, with my team, with my cross-functional team, occasionally with my bosses if we have to think through the recommendation. But thinking together has this incredible impact on whoever you work with, because the best way to really get people to embrace your idea is for them to co-own it. You know that, right?
Right.
And what can make them co-own it better than thinking together? So I am forever grateful for that lesson from my PhD in chemistry. Even though I don't practice chemistry, I definitely, when people ask me, well, what's your leadership style? I say it's a leadership of thought, leadership of thinking together. And I really love doing it.
That's actually prolific. I love that. I actually wrote a book about how we engage, because I know one of the biggest problems is people communicating with each other, but engaging together. That's the hardest thing to teach anyone. And I really, really love that leadership thought, that learning together. I love learning. I think it's such a great message. But I think that what your professor, your mentor, did for you was the biggest favor.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Because what happens when we are engaging, it's sometimes hard to engage. And I don't know about you, but the woman who was head of my dissertation committee had her doctorate degree in statistics from Stanford. Okay, I was just like a little intimidated by that. She was a gem, but at the end of the day, it was very intimidating. And she really was great. She helped me with my dissertation. But I think that in leadership, which you're a leader across so many industries, I think that even though we're going down a different path right now with STEM, I think it's really important that you bring this up, because nothing builds trust more than communicating and engaging with someone who's above our pay grade, but doing it in a way where you walk away with something as big as a doctorate degree, or you walk away with something as big as trust. And also what you're talking about to everyone watching this right now, I think this is going to cascade out. So that's actually a really big learning moment. And I really appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So you bridge technical and business teams. What's your approach, Elena, to fostering collaboration and ensuring that both sides see value? That's a tough one.
Yes, that is a tough one. And I think I would say asking questions, especially when it comes to translating very complicated technical concepts to business. right? In
Yes.
order to do that, I first have to understand it myself.
Right.
And that involves a lot of questions. And I think the key is not to be afraid when you're working with the technical community to admit, hey, I'm not as technical as you are. I'm going to have a lot of questions. Please forgive me if I'm going to ask something 3 times, because if I understand it, client will understand it. And if
You're right.
client understands it, that's good for all of us. And if I premise my conversation with my tech team that way, number one, they're going to laugh. So that's good. If they laugh, they would be inclined to answer my questions. And I would ask them really until I understand. And I think that really is a very, very helpful tactic, so to speak, right? Don't be afraid and feel fashionable word vulnerable, or just be honest and just say, listen, I need to learn, I need to ask you questions, and that would help us get to the answer. So that's my kind of little secret here. Ask a lot of questions and don't be afraid if you sound silly and less knowledgeable, and it's all right. We will get to the answer.
I can tell that you are your own message because I watch your podcast on twinning strategy. And I was really, 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 really afraid of AI. Like, it's like the boogeyman. So I was afraid of it. And I started, of course, I'm not at all now. I'm a huge proponent, but I actually credit you and Jeff Siegel and Eric Siegel for that, because I watched some of your podcasts and I walked away like, oh my gosh, I love AI. Who says that? I say it to everything. I love AI, but I think it's because you made it sound so easy. And I know that you're very scientific, but I understood everything that you said.
Appreciate it. You made my day.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. So we talked about that, about bridging the technical and the business teams. So my next question is, you've led teams through change management initiatives. What strategies have you found most effective in driving adoption of new digital solutions?
So I would say any change management should be taken one small step at a time. And I would credit one of my former bosses with a verb which I really love. It's called inching. Inching is the way to go, because we all have difficulties accepting change, even if we say, no, 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 I'm all about change, right? And therefore, it needs to be taken small steps at a time. So my answer is, don't expect a huge leap forward. Expect a small step forward. Expect a small change in behavior, but make sure that change is sticking, right? And especially when it comes to technology. And again, going back to what we were talking about before, don't be afraid to sound not so knowledgeable and not completely on top of it. It's okay. It's a process and we are learning. And if we kind of take it that way, that, you know, our job is not to show off, but to arrive at the right place, we'll be good.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Actually, I wrote that word down, inching. I'm going to steal that. All right, for the world, I'm going to steal that, but I'm going to be giving Elena and the person that created that word.
Exactly. Put it to good use, all right?
I believe in giving credit where credit's due, but that's fantastic. I think it's really well said, because I think sometimes we have expectations that things can go from here to there overnight, and it never does. It never works that way. Right? Okay. All right. So the next question, as a woman executive, what unique perspectives do you think women bring to leadership in STEM fields?
So I would say, as women, we are supportive, we are communal, we talk to each other, and not to discredit guys who are supportive, communal, and talk to each other. Meanwhile, that's how, for the most part, we operate, and that's how we get things done. And that's the perspective that we bring to STEM. We actually have an opportunity to create communities. We have an opportunities to talk and to offer support and to just extend a hand to each other and not be afraid to be helpful and not be afraid to say, hey, I noticed you weren't so comfortable. Do you want me to help you out? So I think that is the perspective that we bring. And I think it's in hard disciplines like STEM, it's very helpful because in STEM, very often, it's not just like in any business, right? There is not that many business and leadership, not many women in leadership and business, but it's also, there is an element of literally a hard concept, right? It is difficult. And just sometimes just admitting, hey, listen, it's difficult. So I'll help you think it through. Let's do it together. Let's ask. So offering that kind of encouragement and support, I think, is what we bring, and we should practice more of, really.
You're right. I actually wrote this down. What you just said, that what's the difference, again, with women helping women, that having people to create community, help each other because we see that they need help. And I was watching you talk when you were saying that. I was watching your body language and I was listening to your tone of voice. And that made me feel so comforted because I can tell that you are the kind of person, even though you've reached the highest academic level ever, I can see that you're a kind person, that you sincerely and authentically want to help other women. And that when you see someone who looks like they need help, you will say, it looks like you need help. What can I do for you? And that's part of this women in leadership. That's part, I call it the women's club. That's why I love working with women too, because you know what we do? We'll step up and step in to help each other. So
yeah, you know what? The person who needed that little bit of help and encouragement would remember that forever.
Yes, they do.
It is such a small gesture that we can offer, but for them, it is a very memorable kind of moment that somebody helped me out. And one day I'll help the next one.
Yeah, that's true. And I know that I have a very, very big soft spot in my heart to help other women. And I do go completely out of my way and I do things that are really, they're like shocked that I would do it, but I have an ask. And I always say to them, I'm so happy to do this for you. But my ask is pay it forward and do this for another woman. And they're like, okay, right? So everyone wins. So anyway, that was a great answer. I could stay on that question for the rest of the podcast, but we have more questions. All right, Elena. So what barriers do you think still exist for women entering or advancing in healthcare tech and AI? And how can we break them down?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think one of the biggest barriers is really confidence, right? I think what happens is, as women, and we can talk for a whole day why, but we do it, we think that if there are 10 requirements, I have to answer all 10, right? To be eligible to speak about something, I have to know every single thing. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit there quietly, even though I know something really valuable, but I'll just be shy, right? And just keep it down. And I think that's a big barrier. And I think we should encourage each other to say, listen, if you have something to add to this conversation, something valuable, bring it forward. We understand you might not know 10 out of 10, but on this one subject, number 3, you might know something that nobody else does. And that is very valuable. You add value. And I think when we tell each other and tell ourselves, I bring value, I think that is the way to break this barrier. And actually brings me to an interesting kind of point. I have this one KPI for myself, no matter what I do. I ask myself, how did I bring value today? How did I make myself useful today?
Right.
And I better answer, this is what I did. And I just think that if every woman in STEM, or any employee for that matter, asks themselves a question, we would discover a lot of really empowering kind of thoughts about ourselves and make better contribution.
Right. No, that is so true. I'm finding, everyone, that during the podcast, I'm taking notes on what Elena is saying, because I agree with you so much. When you're talking about the confidence, boy, I wish I could find this statistic. I think I was doing this research for one of my books, and I will find where I found this. But toward what you were just saying with regard to the confidence, You're so correct. And there's something about this quote that I saw, some research that when applying for jobs that has, when they look at the position and the requirements, men will, for the most part, they're just going to apply for that job. But women, out of 10, if one of them, if they don't have one requirement, they won't apply for the job.
Yeah, and it's the same thing in business, right? And even the conversation, a woman feels that I'm not so sure about something.
Yes.
She would hold back, and the encouragement is, okay, you hold back on that, but make sure that where you do know the answer and you do know that you will contribute, you go contribute.
Yes. Yeah. And again, I wrote this down that you say that one of your KPIs is what value, what did I do today? What value did I bring today? And I love that because again, that parallels something that I'm always telling other people to try, especially when people are down. I always say, you know, after a whole day of putting in an effort at work, like what's one good thing that happened? Because if you do that every day, you've got 5 good things that happen a week. That's 20 good things a month. And that's over 200 good things a year, which is pretty good. So again, everyone, I'm leaning into what Elena is saying, that we need to not only think about one good thing that we do a day, but again, how we're bringing value. That's a little bit of a mind shift. And I like that. So, all right. Okay. So my next question is, who are some of the women role models that inspired your journey in STEM, and how have they influenced your leadership style?
Well, that's an interesting question. And I'm actually going to talk about my mom. My mom is a research scientist and a PhD in chemistry, and she's been working in environmental chemistry, writing papers about groundwaters and pollution about groundwaters way before they became fashionable and interesting. My mom has been writing about this forever. And she is a STEM mom. And I always looked at her as, oh, that's my mom. And, you know, we would have our fights and disagreements. But as it would come to just encouraging me, she would just say to me if I ran into a challenge, well, just go try. You just go try solving it. Or sometimes she would help me, but it would be just that, go try. Go give it a try, right? Rather than lengthy conversation about shoulda, coulda, maybe not, maybe yes. So simple, just go try. And that is something I learned from her. And that is something I tell my daughters. And that is something I tell my teams. Well, let's just try it, right? If we run into a problem, we will go find the answer, but let's just try it. So I like that. It's kind of constructive. It's like lighthearted, and it's very kind of, you know, moving so forward, so to speak.
It is. I mean, that's very heartfelt. Is your mom still with us?
Yes, my mom, and she still works. So she's still a
I
sighted.
must meet her.
Oh God, yes. Yes, yes.
Where does she live?
She lives in Russia, and she works for the Academy of Science, and she runs, you know, writes research papers on the environmental impacts of you know, garbage and landfills in groundwaters.
Wow, that is so great. What a great tribute to your mom. I think moms are so special to us. And boy, the apple didn't fall far from the tree with you, right?
I may have to tell her that. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. And if you don't tell her, give me her number and I'll give her a call and I'll tell her.
Okay.
Okay, that's so great. All right. So my next question is, what advice would you give women aspiring to step into leadership roles in STEM industries?
Well, I would just second my mom, and I would say just try it. You know, you have value. Go find a way to add value. It may not necessarily be what you thought, right? You might find something slightly different, but search for this, you know, work streams and places where you add value, because you have it. So go try.
Right. And you have daughters, correct?
And I have daughters, and I tell them the same thing. Go
That's
find a place where you would add value and try it. And I also tell them that if you hate something, it is a great answer. It is a
right.
wonderful answer because you will never do it again, right?
Absolutely.
You will
Right.
go do something else and find the place where you are useful, fulfilled, and happy.
Yeah, that's so true because, and I'm really happy that you brought that up because sometimes we're all afraid of failing. And if we're trying something that we're supposed to like, especially if our mom is suggesting it to us, like, you want to please them. But sometimes what happens, well, many times what happens is that if you're trying something, you don't like it, that's fantastic. You move on and it moves you closer to where you should be in the universe. Right.
Yes,
So,
and it's not a failure, it's a
right.
lesson. It is great
Absolutely.
understanding of what you stand for, and that's it. Move on and find something else.
That's fantastic. I love that. Okay. Well, two more questions. So, you also host podcasts with subjects focusing on tech and leadership. How has being behind the mic shaped your own perspective as a leader and an innovator?
It's a great question. I love doing podcasts. I have by now probably done about 90 of them, so I absolutely love doing it. And what I think I like the most of it is giving other people a mic and helping them shine
Yes,
and bringing something in them that maybe they are too busy to bring out, or maybe they didn't, or helping them and giving them a voice. And that's really a very rewarding experience. And I think that made me a better leader because literally I'm very conceptual, and then you could probably tell I'm very like value oriented. And here I step back and say, I want to give this person a moment. I want to give them an opportunity to flourish and be them. And I think that's kind of augmenting me in a good way.
absolutely. Oh, I love that. I love what you just said. Okay. So, the final question I have. So, finally, Elena, if you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice about embracing STEM, AI, and leadership, what would it be?
So, these are hard disciplines, right? STEM is difficult. AI, it depends on, the how you engaged with it. It could be somewhat simple or it could be very, very involved. But the advice is all the same, is just try it. You have value, find where you can add value. And it could be in STEM, it could be in AI, it could be in leadership, or all of the above. Just move forward and see where you can be useful. Don't hold back, we all add value. And it's a matter of finding a place that is our place. And sometimes it takes a little bit of navigation. So find your place and do it.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. Well, I'll tell you, I am encouraging everyone who's watching or listening to this to look up Elena on LinkedIn and follow her on Twinning Strategy. I've learned so much. I will never stop learning. In fact, not that you care, but when I got my doctorate degree, I wanted to go to law school, but my husband said enough because, I mean, education debt, right? But we're education rich. I will never stop learning. And I learned so much from Elena, especially on Twinning Strategy. One thing that I've learned about you, Elena, is how much I enjoy being with you. You're such a great person and you're so smart and you make everyone feel really comfortable. I really like that. And I really enjoyed giving you a moment. And
Thank
for
you.
everyone who, yeah, I really enjoyed it. And thank you for being a very special guest. And for everyone else, I want you to stay tuned. Please look up Salt Perspective on LinkedIn and follow us. Again, the biggest gift that I want to give to women is to let them all have fabulous moments on the Fabulous Women series. So stay tuned, stay in touch, and have a great week. Thanks again, Elena.
Thank you, Kim. Be well.